Hi, and welcome to our webinar today on host cell protein analysis of monoclonal antibodies. My name is Rikke, and I'm heading the impurity analysis team at Alphalyze. I have a background in cancer proteomics, but for the past 6 years, I've been focusing on how to improve methods for host cell protein analysis in biopharmaceutical using mass spectrometry. My talk today will focus on commercial monoclonal antibodies and biosimilars, but I'll also go through a general overview of the monoclonal antibodies we have been analyzing for the past 3 years here at Alphalyze. Yes, so I would like to start with a little introduction to host cell proteins, or HCPs as we usually call them. So host cell proteins are proteins that are produced by the host cell, but they are not related to the protein drug or the recombinant protein. They are categorized as process-related impurities, and a lot of the downstream processes are designed to remove host cell proteins. Host cell proteins may cause adverse effects, that would be side effects in patients, and it may also affect product quality or stability. So the host cell proteins could degrade the product or a product component. Authorities state that the level of HCP must be minimized and also controlled. So monoclonal antibodies, that is a very large group of biopharmaceuticals. They are often administered in high doses, meaning that even a low HCP level could end up being a high dose for the patient. Further, the MAPs are also often administered multiple times, meaning that an immunological reaction could happen after several doses. The monoclonal antibodies, they have an overall similar structure, and the HCP purification have been optimized based on the structure, and especially protein A purification is a key feature in most purification setups. The standard way of measuring HCP levels in monoclonal antibodies is HCP ELISA, and when that is done, the final biopharmaceutical often has a very low level of HCP. And these HCP ELISAs, they are very often process-specific ELISAs or platform-specific ELISAs, which make it difficult to compare different commercial monoclonal antibodies or the HCP levels in them, since one ELISA can only measure the HCP levels of a given set of monoclonal antibodies. Another issue with the ELISA for monoclonal antibodies is that the individual HCPs are not identified by ELISA. So at Alphalyze, we were wondering if we could improve the HCP measurement in monoclonal antibodies using mass spectrometry. And we were especially wondering if our MS-based HCP analysis would show similar levels as the ELISA-based HCP analysis. We were also thinking about if it was the same HCPs that were seen across multiple MAPs, or if it would be different. We were also wondering if we would be able to detect HCPs of concern in commercial monoclonal antibodies, so in antibodies that had been administered to patients. And finally, we were wondering if it would be possible to generate HCP data for future risk evaluation, so to So by analyzing commercial monoclonal antibodies, if it would be possible to get the data on how the patient had reacted. So HCP analysis at AlphaLyse, we have been analyzing we have executed more than 100 projects using the same assay, meaning that the data can actually be compared. These 100 projects include 58 purified monoclonal antibodies, and they represent 30 different sequences, so 30 different maps. This is quite a unique data material for a general overview. We have also analyzed 16 commercial monoclonal antibodies and biosimilars, where we are able to provide detailed on specific HCPs for you today. So our standard HCP analysis is a quantitative analysis that we have been developing during the last 6 years. We have focused on reproducible and automated sample preparation. We use a robot for the most of our sample preparation, and we spike in intact protein standards both for QC purposes but also for quantification. We have a sensitive and robust mass spec analysis using SCIEX instruments, and we also use microflow LC systems. Finally, we identify and quantify the individual HCPs using different software algorithms, and we use the sum-all quantification. We have been using this method for more than 100 projects, and we have also characterized this method. What we can see is that there is a limit of detection around 1 to 5 ppm. It is protein dependent and also drug dependent. We can see that the lower limit of absolute quantification is around 25 ppm. That is with an accuracy of plus minus twofold. We have also investigated the lower limit of relative quantification, which is a bit lower. It's around 10 ppm, where the dilutions of specific proteins are within plus minus twofold. We have also characterized our analysis by analyzing the NIST map, which is widely used in the community to compare different HCP analyses. It's well known that it contains higher amounts of HCP than other monoclonal antibodies. And what we can see is that we see 3 HCPs above our lower limit of quantification, and totally we see 11 HCPs. Looking at the data we have on our 58 purified monoclonal antibodies, we can summarize them and see that in around 50% of these samples, no HCPs are detected. In around 45%, we see 1 to 9 HCPs, and in the final 5%, we see more than 10 HCPs. It's of course a good thing not to have HCPs above the lower limit of detection, but we were wondering if it would be possible to go deeper into the samples and then have an even lower limit of detection. So a few years back in 2017, a method using Native Digest was published, and it was also presented at the BEPA Host Cell Protein Conference in 2018. This method takes advantage of monoclonal antibodies being quite resistant to digestion when there's no denaturants or reducing agents present. So in this way, the host cell proteins are digested, but the monoclonal antibody is not. And by heating it and reducing it, the monoclonal antibodies can be removed by centrifugation. We have adapted it to our laboratory, and also we add our 7-protein standard. Again, for QC purposes. And what we see is that 6 out of 7 of these protein standards have a limit of detection around 0.1 to 0.25 ppm, which is around 10-fold lower than our standard HCP analysis. But what we can also see is that we have one standard that do not digest as well. So we prefer not to use it for quantification. We mainly use it for identification, and then knowing that the HCPs are present in a very low level. So we have, of course, also subjected the NIST map to this analysis, and here there's a huge increase in the number of HCPs identified. We see a total of 201 HCPs, and they are listed here on this slide. Doing the same as for our quantitative HCP analysis, going into our old data and looking at the different samples, we can see that we have 26 purified monoclonal antibodies that have been analyzed using this technique. And here, the percentage of samples where we don't see any HCPs are lowered to around 20%. And we see 1 to 9 HCPs in 62%. And we see more than 10 HCPs in 20%. So it's clear that this method, both in terms of LOD and also in terms of identification of HCPs, that it is more sensitive than our quantitative analysis. I've also looked at what happens when or how the data compares when we first have analyzed the samples using our quantitative HCP analysis, where we on average see 1 HCP in the purified maps. Then the number of HCPs increases to 8 on average when we use the native digest. Yes. So these were all numbers and kind of statistics on our previous analysis. We also wanted to show you some real data and also to look into commercial monoclonal antibodies. So we have made a collaboration with Evidentic. They buy commercial drugs and then they repack them into small quantities, and you are able to buy aliquots of drugs for research purposes. So as part of this collaboration, we obtained 13 different commercial monoclonal antibodies. They are all originators. They include 4 Remicade lots. And through a different collaboration, we obtained additional 3 versions of the infliximab drug, the Remicade drug, but these are all biosimilars for comparison. By subjecting these samples to quantitative HCP analysis, we saw HCPs in 3 out of the 16 samples. Especially Humira actually stood out with 5 HCPs detected, and especially the cathepsin, which is a protease, is interesting, and it's also well known that Humira contains cathepsin. We also saw protein A in 1 drug. It's strictly not an HCP since it's a residual protein, but it's also identified using this analysis. Further, analyzing these samples using the native digest HCP analysis, we could see that we saw HCPs in 11 out of the 16 samples, and we saw 55 HCPs in total. We find it interesting that we see no HCPs in all of the Remicade versions of infliximab, but we actually see HCPs in all of the biosimilars. It's also interesting to look at Humira, perhaps not pricing, but there we saw a lot of HCPs. We saw 40 using the native digest analysis. And hopefully the biosimilars for this drug is cleaner than the originator. So here's the list of the drugs where we saw HCPs. It's ordered by amount, except that the HCPs only seen in Humira is listed on the bottom, and that list is somewhat longer. One HCP that is often seen is the peroxyreducin 1, which we see in 6 out of 16 samples, and including the similar proteins, peroxyreducin 2 and 4, on the list, then we actually see this type of molecule in 8 out of 16 monoclonal antibodies. So that's quite frequent. Another protein that we see quite frequent is the protein A, which we see in 4 out of 16 samples. And there are also 3 proteins that we see each in 3 monoclonal antibodies. So going back to our 30 different monoclonal antibodies, we actually also wanted to see if we could see the same trend in the HCPs. And as you can see, the peroxyreducin 1 is also quite common here, and also the protein A is also quite common. But we have some new proteins on the list when we include these different proteins. So that's the ubiquitin, and also the phospholipase B-like, the PBL2 protein, is also on this list. So finally, we were wondering if commercial monoclonal antibodies would contain HCPs of concern. And this is quite a bit of a tricky area as it is now, since there are no real list of HCPs of concern. So here I have compiled from different papers and some presentations, and also what we hear from our customers. And at least there are some that we see. So I've already talked about the Herceptin, right? The Herceptin L was seen in the Humira, and it's a protease, so that's degrading the MAPs, right? And then we also see the peroxyreducins. They are suspected of different reactions, even tween degradation. And then there's the clustering and the BIP, and I think clustering is mainly for immunological reactions. But we do see HCPs of concern in monoclonal antibodies. So in conclusion, 50% of the analyzed monoclonal antibodies do not contain HCPs above 1 to 5 ppm. And then 20% of the analyzed monoclonal antibodies do not contain HCP above 0.1 to 0.25 ppm. We can see that HCP profiles varies from map to map, but there are certainly shared HCPs. And both the commercial and the biosimilar, commercial originator and the biosimilar monoclonal antibodies do contain HCPs, and also HCPs that are of concern. So we believe these data will will be useful for future risk assessment. And finally, I would like to acknowledge the impurity analysis team here at AlphaLyse, which have been helping out with the analysis, and also the Evidentic team, which have provided the samples for our study. And finally, if you have any questions, please write them in the question box. And you can also write me an email, especially if you're watching the replay. Yeah, so I'll just have a look to see if there are questions. So we have we have a question from Peter. What is the LLOQ for individual? Is it the LLOQ for individual HCPs or for the total HCP pool? So it's actually for the individual HCPs that we evaluate. So that's the really nice thing about the mass spec analysis. You have one value per protein. I can see Francis has also asked a question. So why did you use the native digest version versus classical reduction and alkylation? So the native digest, that's primarily for more sensitivity. Our quantitative analysis, that's more classical reduction and alkylation. And the classical way really improves the quantification. So yeah, I can see Lata has also asked a question. Are there any relation to number of HCPs detected versus host cell strain used to produce the monoclonal antibody? That's actually a really interesting question. We haven't really gone into that part. We see data both from standard, I think it's K1, CHO cell lines, but also DG44. But we haven't gone into that. But my feeling is that there's no correlation, but it would of course be interesting to see. Yeah, should we take that one? This is also from Francis. What are the filtering parameters used to select HCPs for quantification? Yeah, so our main filtering criteria is that we need 2 peptides per protein. And of course, we also need low CV values. Yeah, another question from Peter, I can see. The amount of HCP in nanogram will increase as the drug concentration increases. Yeah, so I didn't specify that. All amounts are in ppm, so nanogram per milligram. Yeah, so yes, the amount will increase as the drug amount increases. And Andrew is asking, how does the ppm of leach protein A compare to ELISA? I actually haven't looked too much into that, but there must be data. But the tricky thing about at least the commercial drugs is that I don't think it's publicly available. But it would, of course, be interesting. But we are in the low ppm, so there was one sample where we could see it using our quantitative MS method, but the others were in the native digest, so they are, yeah, in the 1 to 0.1 ppm range. And Christoph is asking which host cell proteins were used for MAP expression. I kind of answered that. It's, yeah, well, no. There are, of course, CHO cells. The 2 different cell lines I mentioned before, but there are also a number of murine cells. I think it's especially the bit older drugs that were in mouse cells. And we actually also see a few other systems that people are exploring. And Francis is asking, did you ever see MCP1? And I do not believe we have. Maybe in a Not on the top, from the top of my head. No. Yes, so Peter is asking, by the end you mentioned 0.1 to 0.25 ppm. So that's the lower limit of detection for the native digest method. So that's the detection, right? And then he further asked however, you started stating that the LLOQ was 25. So the LLOQ is for the quantitative method. And when we evaluate, so we do these spike-in experiments where we evaluate both when we can detect the protein, so when do we see it, in which samples do we see it, but we also look at the linearity. When does the linearity look too poor? So for now we are defining it as plus minus twofold. And Josh is asking if we will share the presentation, and we will. Actually, this session will be recorded. Naomi is asking, I believe protein A was detected in some of the commercial product, and about the reference sequence. We actually, and further ask, I understand that typically protein A sequence will be excluded in the analysis. It actually depends on the purpose, because the way we do it, we include all possible proteins in our database. So we will include the drug and the proteome of, for instance, CHO, and then we also add protein A to avoid identifying any proteins by a wrong sequence. If this was for a client, I would exclude the data on protein A, but I would state that it was there and say it was a residual protein. But it's all a matter of the purpose of the analysis. And regarding the reference sequences, we use some different commercially available, or not commercially, but publicly available sequences. So I'm not sure I'll be able to tell which drug it came from, or which protein A product was the origin of the protein A. Usually we also only identify perhaps 2 or 3 peptides from protein A, so it will be really difficult to distinguish between protein A products. Andrew is asking how long an analysis take from sample prep to the results. Actually, it's possible to do it quite fast, but we always need to take into consideration that things can go wrong either in the lab or the mass spectrometer, and we also need time to go through. So really pushing it, we can do it within 2 weeks, but usually we aim at 6 to 8 weeks. And another question regarding the CV. We mainly use, I think it's 0.3 for our CV value. And Joe would like to know if we have tested any IgG4 monoclonal antibodies. And I'm actually not sure. I haven't included it in my list of parameters. Yes. So Yoshi is mentioning that MCP1 was on my HCP of concern list in monoclonal antibodies, but that list is compiled also from papers and other presentations on this area. And I would also like to mention that at the PEPCA conference, it was mentioned that actually there is coming a list of HCPs of concern from the BioForum Consortium. I think they said that it was either it was submitted or it was under review. I can't remember, but there should be a new list out soon. And Andrew's asking, have you compared the ppms that you calculate with the ppms from a generic ELISA kit? And I can say that we have not, because it's quite tricky to do that properly. Then you should do a coverage analysis for each of the drugs, and that's simply beyond the scope. And we also don't have the mock samples from all of these, or early process samples from all of these drugs. So we have not, but of course it would be interesting to see the data. So I think that might ends up the Q&A session. So I would like to thank you all for participating, and feel free to send me an email if you have additional questions. And you'll be able to see this webinar on demand very soon.